But anyway, Taurus, very interesting pull this week. So from Halloween, you pulled Dawn, the light after the darkness, and then from Hidden Realms, the Dragon's Duel, inner conflict, morality, and conscious choices. Now, the song Chasing Dragons is what comes up for me when I see this. But with Dawn being there, it's almost like no matter what you're, conflicted about choosing right now, it doesn't matter. It's almost like Dawn is saying that regardless, it's like you can course correct. Now, with Dawn, it's basically saying that there's always a new beginning to be had, right? And to have hope. Now, when you're looking at the Dragon's Duel, though, it's asking the question on whether it's your ego or your soul that's leading you. Which dragon are you feeding here? But whatever it is that you're conflicted about, like I said, it's like it doesn't matter. You can turn around and make a different choice, and there's still a new beginning to be had. So even if you make the wrong choice, here we go, Taurus. Here's your overall for the week. The Ace of Swords. Very nice. Very nice. But I don't know. There's something about that being your overall that makes me think that some of you need to accept or face a truth. Now, it can definitely be saying that, there are the new ideas coming through, the new fresh ideas, the aha moment, right? But with this being the overall, immediately I think of, okay, well then what is becoming clear? What is it that needs to be faced almost? Now, in the past, the Nine of Cups. So in the past, I look at that more so as an action almost. It's like, for some of you, you're looking at all the things that you want, all the things that are going to make you happy, right? If you're talking about abundance here with the Nine of Cups and having your wishes fulfilled, well, what was it? And have you changed your mind though? Going back to the Oracle cards, I don't so much feel like this has to do with overindulgence or anything like that. I think it has to do with what you thought made you happy in the past. Very nice. Very, very nice. So in the present, and I love the aces. And again, Dawn, right? The Ace of Pentacles. So this being offered to you right now, what I love about this is that, this is something that has real potential for you. But I'm still looking at that Ace of Swords going, okay, so is it becoming clear now that, this is something that you need to go after, whether we're talking about, a new job, new relationship. But to me, it's physical looking at the Ace of Pentacles. This is something that, is going to take you the long haul, but you're going to have something to show for this, right? And you're still pulling on this want to have what you want to be happy with the Nine of Cups. But this, and it's not a bad thing. It's just, it's almost like getting hit with the truth. Oh boy. Okay, so future conditions, the Page of Cups. Now, like I've said before, when it comes to this one, I immediately think of somebody who is feeling something they never felt before. Now, this could definitely be about somebody who is communicating their emotions to you, and that may be the truth that's becoming clear. But I would have expected that Ace of Pentacles to be underneath this, and then naturally progressing down to, yes, it's a real possibility. But I don't know. This almost feels like this is something that interjects between, what you're wanting to do here and then possibly how you're feeling. Now for some of you, for talking about choices with the Dragon's Duel, it could be that, do you go after what is realistic, or are you going after, what is like new, feeling new to you, possibly having to do with new relationship versus work, right? Which is possible. Now, on the other hand, with the Page of Cups, though, especially with all this going on, we could definitely be talking about, you doing something on the creative end that makes you feel good, right? But it's a new experience. Oh boy, your best path to follow, the Moon. And then the question comes up again, right? On whether or not you're feeding your soul or your ego. But I look at the Moon and I think, for some of you, this to me is like a clear indicator that you're looking at things in a distorted way. Now, this could just be like, confused emotions, right? But And I also feel like not a lot of understanding on how to move forward here because of possibly this coming through. But then you still have the Ace of Swords as the overall, you know? And what is it that you have to face, though? And, with the moon, right? Like facing those darker parts of yourself, right? And it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like I've said with the moon, I think it's an opportunity to pull creativity and beauty out of darkness. But what is it that you're not seeing clearly that you need to with that Ace of Swords? Oh my God, Taurus, what the hell? And there you go. I mean, that's like the perfect example of the duel, right? Which dragon are you feeding? What is practical and what you have a passion for? Jesus Christ, if I see the Ace of Cups, I swear to God. The Ace of Wands in your environment, you have a couple of choices. Two very clear, distinct ones. You have one that I think that some of you look at in a practical way. And again, this could be about relationships or work, but you will know, because one choice seems practical. It seems like this is something that could be, long lasting and it has good potential. And then the other one is physical action, something that, stirs up passion in you. And it may be why, you're moving into this place with the Page of Cups where you're like, oh, I don't know what to do about these new feelings, especially surrounding options that you have. But then I go right back to the Nine of Cups and I think, okay, well, what did you think was going to make you happy in the past? Wow, Taurus. I want these aces, damn it. But there's something you're needing to face, But I also think that with that Ace of Swords, it's you needing to be more truthful with yourself about what the hell it is you wanted in the first place. Here's my thing, right? If we're talking about you having two very beautiful new beginnings here, life is too short to be going after things that, are just going to get you by, is what I want to say. Now, with the Ace of Pentacles, yeah, absolutely. It could lead to you having absolute financial success. But, with the Ace of Wands being there, it's like, but are you going to be happy? Are you going to be fulfilling your own passion, And the reason why I say that is because of the moon being here. And then all these new feelings and emotions that are going on. Your hopes and your fears, the sun. Now, again, and the reason why I say choice here is because, clearly you have, two very new beginnings. I do think of this more so as what is happening within your own mind, and then you have the moon, right? But more so because of the dragon's duel showing up. That's... and then, like I said, though, like I'm looking at this and I'm taking it all in. When we're talking about the sun and hopes and fears first, we'll start there. You're talking about hoping that the choice that you make is going to make you feel good, right? You're talking about the ego here too with the sun. But then, of course, seeing everything clearly, but needing to, take the path that is going to make you feel rejuvenated. And it's almost like you're hoping that this is going to continue, having your time under the sun here. And again, I don't see anything bad with this. And like I said, I go back to the Oracle cards and I think no matter what you choose, there's still going to be an opportunity for you to course correct. So if you make one choice and you're not exactly happy with it, that other one is still going to be there regardless, and I may be biased on this, but like I said, you need to, for me, I look at it as, your time in the meat suit is too short. It's too short to be looking at things from a survival point, yeah, we have to do, the things that help us survive in day-to-day life, going to work, paying the bills, right? But if you have an opportunity to do that and be happy and have a passion for what you're doing, then yeah, that is the path that I feel like you need to take. Like I'm watching it coming down, like, yes. And this is something big, with the sun being there, something that's going to continuously make you feel good and uplift you. But do you see everything clearly? And I say that again because of the moon being here. And then coming out, the Knight of Swords. Wow. So, I see that and I think, if you're facing the truth about, your own true feelings in regards to what you're wanting to do, what's going to make you happy, what choice are you going to make, what beginning are you going to choose, and then on the other hand, maybe you don't need to choose just one. Take both, right? But I look at the Knight of Swords and I think once you get that absolute clarity and you understand, to me, this is moving forward with conviction. And it's funny because I've been seeing that a lot here. Now, this could definitely represent somebody who is coming to you with, the truth, with the Ace of Swords, right? That may help, make things clear. But the thing is, like I said, there is this like not seeing things in the right way, but it's all because of all of these emotions, I think, that are going on. And I look at the Knight of Swords, and even with the Page of Swords with this one, and then the Two of Swords in there. Yeah, there's the difficulty with the choice. Now, when we're looking at the Ten of Swords, to me, this is looking at things, that are ending in a very difficult way. Again, though, there's that clarity that's peeking through. And it's almost like getting up off the ground now and understanding that you need to, do what's going to make you happy. Because I go back to the Nine of Cups. Now, what you thought was going to make you happy in the past could definitely have ended this way, right? But this may be what is giving you like a sort of strength here to kind of, push forward. Now, with the Three of Wands, definitely we're looking out toward, the future here, or trying to see, what is going to happen next, kind of waiting for things to develop, but you've already taken action. And because of that, you have these opportunities that are showing up, but then coming up with the Two of Swords again. For a lot of you, it's going to be one of those things where I think that you're done with the difficulties, looking at the Ten of Swords as, past, clarifying this. But I look at this and I think, you immediately get back up here. You're off the ground. The worst is over with. You're taking those right steps. You're looking out to see how things are going to work out. But it's like both of them look really good to you, I think, is the problem. And that's where the Two of Swords is coming in, because you're talking about needing to make a choice. Now, the thing is, though, like I said, looking at the Oracle cards, whatever it is that you choose to do, you need to go with conviction, right? But then the other thing, though, too, is I think that, especially with the Three of Wands being there, no matter what it is you choose to do, you can still turn around and make a different choice, and it brings up the whole not set in stone feeling. But regardless, I mean, Taurus, damn, both of them look great. I would just, again, think about how you are looking at these opportunities, because clearly here there's a distorted view, right? And like I said, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's because of emotions being involved, I think. But then looking at the Knight of Swords, it's almost like, all right, I'm going to cut that out and I'm going to make, the right choice here, looking at the Ace of Swords. But then you ultimately get into the spot where it's like, which one is the right choice? But I think both of them are. Don't overthink it too much, but definitely look at, the emotions surrounding what you ultimately choose, but then again, right? Like to me, it's almost like, well, it doesn't matter because both of them are still going to be there regardless. And then intention, what are your intentions? When I look at tranquility, I think that that's what you need, especially emotionally, right? But then transformation, whatever it is that you choose to do here is going to cause a transformation within you, but you need to set the right intentions to cause the right transformation that's going to lead to that tranquility in your life. I think it's perfect. I think no matter what you do right now, you're going to be fine. Just, don't look at things in a distorted way based on emotions. And that's just the advice between these two. And then focus on love. Look for the good attributes in each and every person in your life. Every time I see that one, I think, especially if we're talking about choices between people, it's one of those things where you have to look at them differently. There may have been like circumstances surrounding a person in your life that you were not aware of. And I don't know where I'm getting this from, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they were a bad person. You need to look at the good in this person, focus on that, or, focus on that in people in general in your life, whether we're talking about relationship or family, but be in the present and dream of the future, right? And then you have the moon, and then looking at the Three of Wands, I think that that's perfect. Definitely your power is in the present moment, but there's nothing wrong with looking at the possibilities of the future, right? But Taurus, I'm telling you, no matter what it is that you choose, you can always course correct here. Those opportunities are not going away. All right, Taurus, so I'm looking at this, and very clearly to me, it looks like you have a couple of choices. And, with these aces showing up and then looking at Dawn, yeah, absolutely, these are about new beginnings for you. This could be work or relationship. But then I look at the Nine of Cups as the past coming through, and I think, what was it that originally made you happy, right? And then I look at this Ace of Wands in your environment and see where the conflict is coming through here, because you're talking about passion versus practicality, but I think that you can have both. Now, I think the biggest problem with this, though, is there's definitely newer emotions that are happening here. And absolutely, we can be talking about offers that are being made. But because of the moon being right next to that, and then looking at the advice here, I think that some of you may be looking at your options in a distorted way based on emotions, right? And it's not a bad thing, but you're not seeing things clearly. And then looking at the Ace of Swords as the overall, absolutely, there is like a truth that needs to be faced almost, but it's not a bad thing. It's more about facing the truth of your own emotions surrounding what you're going to choose to do here. Now with the Sun, this to me, I feel like this has to do more with, wanting to have that continued new feeling, and feeling good about the choice that you make, feeling good about yourself, but then also hoping that the choice that you do make is going to be uplifting for you. Now, coming out and looking at the Knight of Swords, I think of conviction when I see this. I see this and I think, you're going to get to a point here where you're going to see your emotions clearly. Because when you're talking about a page, you're talking about naive energy, right? But with the Ace of Swords being there, it's like getting clarity on those emotions, but then moving forward with conviction. But I think for some of you, what may end up happening is you may feel like you were too quick to make a choice. Now, looking at the Ten of Swords, I look at this more so as the circumstances surrounding the past, right? So, and that may be why you're looking at the Knight of Swords. So if you had something that ended in a really painful way that you thought was going to make you happy here with the Knight of Swords, it may be like, well, I'm not going to do that again because I already know what to expect there. But that may not be the truth, right? And then coming out, though, with the Three of Wands and then the Two of Swords, and again, right, the difficult choice, but looking further ahead here. And I think that for a lot of you, it's going to be one of those things where, you may feel like you make a choice too quickly. But I'm telling you, with the Oracle cards showing up, again, what dragon are you feeding? Yeah. But with Dawn being there, there's the course correction is what I keep hearing, looking at these two. It doesn't matter. There may be the duel and the inner conflict going on based on what you have in front of you. But no matter what you ultimately choose to go after with conviction, if it's not, what you had expected to see in the long term, you can always go back. But I think that some of you are going to, do I do this? Right? The Two of Swords to me shows more difficulty surrounding having to change your mind and take a different path. But looking at the Oracle cards, you're fine, right? Now, tranquility, transformation, and intention, right? You have to set the right intention. That is what's going to cause transformation in your life and lead you to the tranquility that you need. Every time I say that card, I think somebody needs some tranquility, some calm, and clarity. And again, you have the Ace of Swords. Now, as far as Whispers of Love goes, I look at this and immediately I think, if we're talking about a person in particular that some of you may have dealt with, when you're looking at focus on love, this is basically saying that, and again, I don't know where this is coming from. The circumstances surrounding the person that you're dealing with, maybe things that you didn't take into consideration, which is why you're now being asked to look at the good attributes of this person and realize that, if they were, like I've said before with this one, if they were an asshole before, it may be because of things that you were not aware of. But then, with being the present and dream of the future, it's okay to look out and see what is possible here, especially if we're talking about a person as far as love goes. But, be in the present moment, right? Your power is in the present moment. I don't see that so much as like a Seven of Cups type of feel. I think of it more so as looking at what the end result could potentially look like and hoping for the best. And not doing this whole thing of preparing for the worst first, right? Which then I go back to tranquility, and then I look at, looking at things in a distorted way. But what I will say here, no matter what it is that's happening around you, the biggest thing here is that clarity, that truth and that understanding that no matter what it is you ultimately do here, you can always change your mind at any time.